Right, okay, I think we'll get started now then. So welcome everyone to our How to Get Started with Microsoft 365 Copilot webinar. And it's going to be presented by myself, Bruce Penson from ProDrive, and I'm joined by Nathan Stokes from Pax8. And what we're going to cover, just a little bit of background on Copilot, but the main part of this webinar really is going to be a live demonstration, which Nathan's kindly going to take us through of some common applications of Copilot and how you could potentially use it within your businesses. We will have time for questions at the end, but if you do have any questions during the demonstration, please put them in the chat and we'll try and answer them as we go along. So without further ado, we shall crack on with things. So what exactly is Copilot? So Microsoft do use the term Copilot for quite a few different products, but essentially Copilot means it's an AI assistant. So it's Microsoft's term for an AI assistant. Now, you've probably seen Copilot already, especially if you use the Edge browser. So there is actually a version of Copilot in there, which is roughly equivalent to ChatGPT if you've ever used that. One benefit it does give you is it gives you privacy protection. So if you've got a Microsoft 365 license, then any data that you put into there is held within your Microsoft 365 tenant. But Copilot is also used in lots of other suites and applications. And one of the main focuses today is going to be on Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that's within your 365 environment and the apps within 365. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the usual ones. So why should you be considering Copilot? So really there's, we can divide the sort of reasons for using Copilot into four kind of areas. So firstly, the quantity of work. So put simply, using AI allows you to get more done. So it helps you get ahead of your competition or prevents your competition from getting ahead of you if they're all using this technology. Helps with pressure on margins as well. So inflation, salary, that kind of thing. If you're able to do more with the same or more with less, then that's obviously a help there. And AI can really massively increase the volume of data that you can process as well. It also has an impact on the quality of work. So one of the things that I'm sure everyone in business knows is that clients' expectations are continually shifting upwards. People are expecting more for less. So AI can really help you address these challenges. And it can also help you add to service offerings as well, because you can do more things that you may not be able to do before. Then perhaps you could expand your client offerings. You have to excuse me, I've a cold at the moment, so I might go a bit croaky during this. Shortening digital skills gap. So it gives staff access to capabilities that are unlikely to have had before, unlikely to have the knowledge to have. So good example is that, and we might cover this later, but you can use Copilot to use complex Excel formulas that people might not otherwise know or take a long time to look up, that kind of thing. It can also help empower SMEs to compete with bigger players. Using some of that AI technology can allow you to do things you might not be able to do before. And finally, improving business culture. So if you're using AI within your business, you're going to attract some of the younger generation coming into the workforce who have been using this technology at university. And it's exciting for them. So, and it helps people attempt to do stuff maybe that they might otherwise have been struggling to do. So a good example might be that using AI to produce a presentation. Some people might not be confident doing that kind of stuff before, but if you've got the AI to back you up, then that can be a bit of a game changer there. And finally, just a few considerations. If you're looking at implementing Copilot, there's a few things you need to consider. Firstly, you obviously have to have engagement from your workforce. No point paying out for Copilot licenses. They can, on the face of things, appear quite expensive. People aren't going to use them. You've got to make sure your security is up to date as well. So Copilot gives you some incredibly powerful tools for searching your data and any kind of issues you have in your permissions, that kind of stuff could be quite easily exposed by using Copilot. Make sure your 365 setup is correct, and any kind of sort of data governance access requirements in there. And finally, obviously training people. There's actually lots and lots of resources on Microsoft's website about how to use Copilot. So they've been really, really good with that. So getting your staff looking at those videos, that kind of thing, is really important. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Nathan for the exciting part. Nathan's going to take us through a few demos. So just a reminder, please pop your questions in the chat if you have any during this. Thanks. Over to you, Nathan.
Cool. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, good morning. Nope, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, just to double down on the intro, Nathan Stokes, Manager of Microsoft Programs and TSI for Pax8. So covering all of EMEA, been in the industry around 10 years or so, always focused on the Microsoft space and always helping with that kind of rollout of net new technologies, adoption, and then where the impact is off the back of it. So just to echo Bruce's comments, please do punch all comments and questions into the chat. I'd love to try and address everything whilst we're on the call. Shared knowledge is good knowledge. And yeah, I want to run you through some of the fundamentals of what Copilot for M365 brings. I think the intro there from Bruce was spot on in regards to those 4 things: the quantity of work, quality of work, digital skill, and business culture. I want to hopefully share on how some of those things can be impacted. If you've got the use of this technology, what can we do to enhance it? What can we do to help you get more out of it? So hopefully I can showcase some of those things for you. Cool. So I want to start off with exactly what Bruce said actually around the free version of Copilot. So this is accessible to users that have a Microsoft license called Business Standard upwards. And yeah, again, to what Bruce's comments were, this is the best way I describe it is like the corporate version of ChatGPT. A lot of the concerns sometimes with ChatGPT is, you know, what information can I put into that app? Business sensitive information, client emails, maybe my own proposals. And there's been 1 or 2 things in the news, as people have seen over the last 6 months or so, where data has been a concern of what you can enter in there. With this though, you're benefiting from the exact same AI engine as what ChatGPT brings you, but with the security that that Microsoft put around it. And there's a couple of really key points I want to make sure you're all aware of or comfortable with. One, this Copilot is not a learning model. That's a really important thing to learn. So as much as you want to input information, this could be a go-to-market plan that your business has. This could be a HR query. This could be your own IP. The information put into this isn't then going to be taken, learned by the AI, and then potentially somewhat translated elsewhere. No one from Microsoft can access it, which is another good thing, where ChatGPT can be accessed by those employees at OpenAI for one reason or another. And it doesn't save or store your history. A new session is a new session. So there's a couple of benefits from that side. From my exposure, I've been working with Copilot or using it for about 6 months now, and been doing a lot of sessions with businesses like yourself around where do you maximize it and where do I use what where. And Copilot itself, this free version, is being underutilized. So I thought I'd start with some of the capabilities of what this could bring. I then want to flick over to something called M365 Chat, which is baked into your Copilot license, which is this bit here. This is a great app where it brings all of your data across all of your 365 applications, whether it's in Teams, PowerPoint, Word, whether it's even meetings in your calendar, and what you can do by using this. And then look to transfer that over to building something out in Word, maybe a proposal, maybe an idea, and then having that easily converted into then something that you can present or build off the back of. So just starting on with some of the basics and capabilities here. One of the things I'm working on at the moment is building my own charity. So I'm going to ask it, can you help me with creating 10 names for a charity? I don't want a picture. For a charity I am working on to protect strawberries. One of the important things as well, I get this asked quite a lot around these differences. There's some people that work in very specific roles. If we look at anything from a financial perspective, legal, even a technical role. Obviously, the precise one's going to be very factual. It's going to source things of accuracy. You've got balance, which is obviously going to be something that will add a bit of creativity, but whilst also be probably quite direct with where it sources it from. And then you've got a creative one where you're actually going to exercise the AI and its intelligence quite a bit, which again is good options for those that are using this in different scenarios. So I'm just going to ask it this simple prompt to start with, see what it can do for me. And obviously, as I'm going through some of these things, think about the roles that sit within your organization today. Think about the content that gets created, whether that's proposals to clients, whether that's internal operations, whatever it may be. Yeah, so very quickly, we've got a number of options here. I'm going to go with Strawberry Shield. So now I want to build out, well, I need a mission statement for the charity. So can you create a mission statement for Strawberry Shield? So immediately I've now got a name, I've got a mission statement, which is quite awesome. Okay, amazing. Can you help me with a 4-week blog post on what my charity is looking to do? So it's gone from an idea and a concept, which again, you can tailor and edit, but this is great for, you know, in those scenarios where you got writer's block, when you need to come up with some abstract or normalized ideas. It's a great way to try and use the AI to help with the function of what you're working in. Also remember as well, as we transition this over to what Bruce was citing, which is this tech, but being baked into the Office apps, it can start to work off data you've got. So let's use the example that maybe your business has worked on a new idea to go to market with a new product, or maybe you've revamped a service. Maybe you're going for a brand change, whatever it may be. Think about, well, what am I going to do to then get market research on this specific subject? What are we going to do to look at the competitor landscape of the service that you're offering? A lot of this can now be withdrawn through seconds rather than scouring the web, trying to find people in your local geographical area, the right kind of content. Think about how this can be impacting on your day-to-day workings. But yeah, so now I've got a charity name, I've got a mission statement, I've now got a 4-week blog post. I now need something to work off from an image perspective. Can you help me with a logo for this charity? So for those that have been investing into ChatGPT and the capabilities of the OpenAI partnership with Microsoft, you may have gone as far as seeing DALL-E 3, which is their image creation technology, text to image. You may have also seen Sora AI. If you haven't and you want to have some fun on your lunch break, please do explore it. Sora is text to video. And a lot of these things, as much as it won't be the premium version, are being baked into some of the options that you have here, which again can be tailored and twisted, or it can at least give you a foundation. I actually worked with a customer recently to help with some use cases here where they really had an idea of an abstract image that they wanted to have for one of their marketing campaigns, but they couldn't really fathom it. They didn't really know what it would look like, what kind of colors they were looking for. So they ended up using this actual solution to ask the AI to generate a couple of different images that would at least be close to the reference of what they wanted designing. And then they still had this partnership elsewhere that was a specialist in media and logo creation, that they were able to send over these examples without having to have that specific skill within the business, which was not only a time-saving exercise, but it allowed their project to be actioned a lot quicker, less drafts being created, less time being wasted, and send that over. And then their final proposal was actually a lot more accurate to what they wanted because of the use of this. So even, well, I've been probably talking 5 minutes or so. I've gone from an idea created or supported by the AI, a mission statement, and again, all of these things can be provisioned and changed, revised, to a 4-week blog post, and now also a logo to support what my actions are. Another use case, I tried to draft out an unnecessarily aggressive email to share with you how this could also be used. So if I open up a new session, and and I ask it to, can you help me make this email sound less aggressive? And then if I just punch down here what I've drafted up, which you can have a quick read through if you want, just something around my frustrations around a project being done, the timescales, how my business feels about it. But I've used some pretty aggressive language in there, some pretty specific language. So I'm going to see if Copilot can help me with amending something I've written myself. So as you can see immediately, it's not only rewording my email, which definitely came across way too direct, way too aggressive. It's added more to it. It's made me sound a lot more professional, and it's given me a better framework to work off. I can now go back in and maybe ask it to add a couple of other pieces. But even with the simplistic use of internal or external communication, whether it's drafting that new information, whether it's just using content that you've already got, or whether it's just helping you along the way with maybe how we can make some changes, it's another good use case on how I can take some content at the end of a Friday when I'm absolutely tired and relatively annoyed, to then continuing to make sure that I represent myself and my business in a much more professional manner whilst get my point across pretty directly. Cool. Again, and the last thing I'd probably say on this specific one is another great couple of use cases. Think about contracts. If you're looking for a specific term in a contract, but you've got a 7-page contract or a lot of text, you can submit it here and ask it to pick out those specific things. If you've got a document that you've got in the organization, but you are looking to amend it by adding a new blurb on the impact to maybe your carbon footprint, maybe you want to consider addressing some of the language that you're using to make it more layman's terms because you're presenting to a different audience, whatever it may be. Again, all these use cases can sit within just Copilot that we've got here. The transitioning over to some of the applications we've got now in Word. So again, I tried to come up with something that would be relevant here. So I'm going to copy the link and put it in. One of the things that you'll find if and when you've got Copilot for M365 is the app sits native within all of the applications. Yeah, to Bruce's point, you need to make sure that your data is all where it needs to be. It's secure. There's something called sensitivity and labeling to make sure that people have access to the right things also, because it will go and search things that you may want to contain. But all the apps sit natively within the workloads that you're working in. And even in here now, I can put whatever I want. I could put a business document, I can reference whatever I want. But for this scenario, I'm going to say, can you help me draft up a proposal on why an SMB would adopt Copilot in their business and what outcomes they would see? So one of the big things I always get here is, well, what's the difference between Copilot and what you're doing now? The difference here is I get to take this information and use it in other aspects. So whether that's email drafts, whether that's PowerPoint presentations, I also get to cite and reference other documents that sit in my organization. So maybe I've got 1 or 2 other team members that are talking about Copilot, maybe for different personas within sales, HR, operations. And I want to cite those into this document to then help beef it out or make it more specific to what the project is being done internally. I can also reference documents to make sure things sound the same, which is really important. So again, if you're generating something from scratch, but there's a brand consideration that you want to consider, again, you can cite other documents to make sure that it's staying relevant to how you conduct yourself. So yeah, you can quickly see here, it's given me a pretty comprehensive document on why an SMB would use it, with an introduction, benefits, market research as well, which is fantastic, with then a conclusion. I can now ask it to regenerate. If I'm not quite happy with this, I can look to ask for a couple of options. I can ask it to include things, or I can simply keep it, which I'm going to do. I'm now going to save this document as And again, thinking about the workflows here, thinking about what's being worked on collaboratively, thinking about logos, imagery, there's a lot more that can be added to this to then beef out the final outcome. But if I now take this link and go straight into the PowerPoint presentation, Copilot's already present for me. I could ask it to generate something from absolute scratch. I can ask it to add a slide. So when we're talking about amending or adding content to slide decks, you've also got the benefit of any content creation you have. Again, this could be ideas from Copilot of the first version. This could be ideas from what's already been worked on. You can simply then translate that into your own branding also. So if you've got a slide deck that has default branding to make sure there's an element of consistency, you can make sure that whatever content shared, as you're going to see me create now, you can make sure it stays within your business's brand guidelines. So I'm going to ask it to create a PowerPoint presentation from a file. I'm going to simply chuck in that file that I didn't even create myself. And you're going to see it go to work fairly quickly. And it does a number of things. It analyzes what you put in there, so it understands what you're trying to get across, what the point is. It's going to generate some slides for me. But I think one of the most impressive things that really helps is it focuses on what can it do to help you become a better presenter also by adding speaker notes, which is really cool. One of the considerations I always ask customers to have is when we're looking at Copilot as a productivity hack here to make your business be able to do more, do it quicker, do it more efficiently. If we just look at this isolated example of content going from creation to being approved and happy with to then actually becoming something that would be presented internally or externally, think about the time saved in regards to the admin tasks and the time created to then focus on the actual outcome. So if I was doing a presentation on the fishing industry, as much as I would want that content to be enriched with facts, as much as I want the PowerPoint presentation to be clear, I now get to focus more on either the day-to-day job or the audience and the content of what I'm presenting on, rather than always the admin of the content creation. Yeah, so as you can see here, it's created what have we got here? 12 slides. As you can see, I'll just draw this up a little bit with speaker notes of content simply from a Word document that was generated by a singular prompt. Again, I can go in and amend or edit anything with Designer. I can change some of the imagery. I can ask it to change some of the content, make it less wordy. You know, again, looking at some of the statistical pieces here from the data that it would have researched for me, again, with the speaker notes underneath. So enriching your experience very, very quickly on how quickly actions can get taken. I appreciate we don't have an abundance of time, so I want to move over to what it could look like within Teams. For those, Teams is one of the most enriched features within Copilot. I would love for maybe people to put agree or yes I do, but if anyone has, if any of your calendars end up looking like Tetris, where you've got meeting on top of meeting, internal, external, client-facing meetings, one of the problems with most businesses, especially SMBs, is we now have to sacrifice something. We have to catch up with a colleague, or we have to wait for the draft email to come out, or whatever it may be. One of the best things that sits within Teams, which also is in conjunction with Outlook, your emails, is the ability to send Copilot to meetings. So as you're attending this training session, wanting to learn a little bit more about how Copilot can be used, what it does in each application, there may be another meeting happening. Well, you could have sent Copilot to that meeting as you attend this one, and Copilot will attend. It will give you a full summary of what was discussed, key talking points. Was anything addressed to you? Was there a presentation that you should revisit? Timelines, project lines, whatever it may be. So all the specifics. The other ability you get from it is similar to what you'll see here, is I've just got this very random chat that I created with some of my colleagues who put a lot of nonsense in there, if I'm being honest, just to help me with some of the features. But you can then go back and engage with that meeting. So let's just say there was a meeting around a new bit of tech being hosted internally for holiday submissions or expense claims, but you weren't able to attend for one reason or another because you had a call with a provider or a customer, whatever it may be. You would be able to go back into that meeting once Copilot's attended, and you can ask very direct questions. You can ask sentiment. You know, was there agreement and alignment? Was there, you know, was there questions that weren't answered? Was my name brought up, or who brought my customer up? Whatever it may be, you can go back and engage with it for up to 90 days. So this also helps with attendance and being present within meetings. I would probably imagine there's a lot of people on this call, internal meeting, external meeting, that take pen and paper with them. Take down notes, what was discussed, what's the key action points, and whether people like it or not, and there's lots of research that shows that, it does distract you from the content and the speed of how quickly and effective that meeting can be. Again, it's another simple win, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. The Copilot will summarize everything that was discussed per person, next steps and actionables, and if anyone committed to anything. So again, you could have had a really busy day and you come into the next day, oh gosh, I said I was going to send something over. You can simply go back into that meeting history in your Teams, ask Copilot, what did I say was my actionables, or what did I need to send? It will then tell you exactly what you need to send, and you can then action said thing. It also gives you the ability to improve your meetings. So if anyone's dealing with a supplier, if anyone's dealing with a client, as the meeting's going on and Copilot's present, of course it's taking summary notes for you, so you can engage whilst the meeting's going on. You can ask it to recap the meeting so far, key talking points, but it also enhances your meeting due to the fact that you can now ask it good follow-up questions, unanswered questions. It will be able to tell you the sentiment of the meeting thus far. So maybe you joined 5 minutes late, or maybe you've been distracted, whatever it may be. So you can actually get a gist of what's going on in the meeting as it's going along. So it really enhances the general meeting experience. As you can see here, just a quick example. I asked it for the highlights of the past day. Nathan requested some random content for a demo, leading to a discussion around food preferences and curtain choices. I could now go back in and ask it way more specific prompts, or I can simply generate my own. And this doesn't just sit within chats of specific nature. This can sit in your team's channels. So let's just use the fact that you've had another busy day. You go back in, a channel's got 50 notifications. You're either going to do one of two things. You're not going to read them and wait for them to become a thing, or you are going to spend too much time reading them. And I don't know, 40 of those 50 messages may have not been relevant for you. Well, that's time wasted. So let's just use the AI to summarize what's been addressed. You can ask if anything's been directed on projects you're working on or your name, and you can move on to the next task. So another couple of cool features there. Very last thing I wanted to share, because I appreciate that I think there's some questions, is a really, really important feature, which is M365 chat within Copilot. So this is where it does bring a lot of your data into one place, where you can then get a lot of information. So yeah, so if I use what's the latest from, and I'll use the colleague that I work with lots, which is Evan Phillips. M365 Copilot now is going to summarize a lot of stuff that's happening between me and Evan, whether that's calls, meetings, projects, Teams messages exchange, whatever it may be. It's going to find all that relevant information, which is going to help me, again, action my work a lot quicker, whether it's for my team lead, my manager, the boss, whatever it may be. I can be very specific to make sure there's no things that are not being ticked off from a project perspective, and also lets me know what's going on with that person also. So especially if you look at those busy days, any annual leave or whatever it may be. Another great feature of this is it helps with just general organization. If your business is allowing remote workers or hybrid workers, if you want to set a meeting up for 3 or 4 individuals, how do you always know without going into each Outlook? Is that a time I can book in? Is that not? Then you're wasting small amounts of time, 5-10 minutes per time you want to do this. You could simply ask this chat, I want to book a meeting in with Bruce, Evan, and Corey. I need an hour to discuss X, Y, and Z. When's the next time it's free? And it will tell me if that meeting's already been done, if that meeting's happened without me, and also when the next time that meeting can occur. I'll pause there for a second. Is there any questions, Bruce, that we need to address in the chat?
There was one question which we've it came through privately, answered that in the chat, but just it's probably worth just recapping which is the cost of a Copilot license. So if you want to have Microsoft 365 Copilot, and that's all the tech that's in the Microsoft apps and also the business chat, which you see on the screen at the moment, It's approximately about £300 per annum for the Copilot license, which is on top of your existing Microsoft 365 license. So you need either a business or a Microsoft 365 enterprise license already in. If you want the standard Copilot, which is the one Nathan describes as sort of corporate chat GPT, that's included within your Microsoft 365 license already. So just to clarify that point.
And for the context of that cost as well, I just want to share a couple of other pieces for you. As Copilot continues to develop, which it will, because it's an AI solution, so even more capabilities are touching things like Outlook, Teams, Excel, and the other pieces in your ecosystem. The average time saved during the pilots, so this is when SMBs and enterprise got access to it. This was, I think, at September of last year. The average time saved of the users was 10 hours. And that seems post launch to the wider world now, that seems to average between 6 and 8 hours is the average time saved. For context, an employee has to earn between £40,000 and £45,000 a year and only have to save 2.5 hours a month for a green or positive ROI. And obviously that number varies if the employee earns less or if the employee earns more. But if you're looking at the average time saved, and again, going back to Bruce's points at the start, quantity of work, quality of work, digital skill, business culture, we're addressing only point number one here, really, which is how much work is the individual getting done. Well, as soon as you're investing into tech to be more productive, Copilot is demonstrating to the market fairly quickly that Copilot is demonstrating to the market very quickly that you can save a lot of time using this solution, which is then paying back the ROI for the investment into the tech, let alone addressing how good is the work, client proposals, marketing content. You've got access to a wide variety of tech. Well, how well are you using that? That comes at an expense also. And then, like Bruce said, the business culture piece. How much are people enjoying the day-to-day tasks? How much creative freedom have they actually got in their working day? And what are you doing to represent your brand as a forward-thinking one? So when you go out to market and you've got this new flood of Gen Zs coming through, who are now seeing this as a prerequisite rather than a desirable, what are you doing for that talent retention and talent acquisition play? Which again, this will have an impact on. So,
yeah, I think just to recap one of those points there on the ROI. I mean, we've been using Copilot since it was released, I think back in January time in our business. And obviously it's still developing. There's bits and pieces that I'm using of it. But one of the biggest things for me was recapping all the sort of Teams messages and emails and things that I'd missed whilst I've been on holiday. Week's holiday, came back, it's like 300 emails, several hundred Teams messages. And it was really useful then. And for me, the amount of time it saved then, that could almost have paid for it for a year. We've got a couple of questions. So the first one, can you use Copilot to find a convenient time for meetings, a bit like Doodle poll?
Yes, you can. You can simply, on the screen you can see now, I could simply put in the people in my organization. The only thing to consider is just a boring technical part. You have to make sure you've got access to people's diaries, but that can be easily managed and done. But yeah, I could simply put in, I want to meet with said person and said person for a length of time. When's the next available time? So I'm familiar with the Doodle poll. We've got a couple of other things that we use as well. You don't even have to use that, because that's again taking time for the person to respond. You can simply ask the tech to find out when is everyone free for the length of time that you want, and it will come back and tell you. So if anything, it enhances that.
And there's another question, whether we've got time just to show a couple of bits of functionality in Excel.
I didn't prep anything for Excel, but I'm more than happy to, whoever asked that question, I'm more than happy to find some time with them to show them that personally. Absolutely no problem. The Excel one, just to give you some context, is probably not going to help because you want to see it in real life. But if you look at raw data, there's a couple of very small things you have to do, but and I always use this because when we tackle the digital skill piece, I always make a stupid joke. I've been working with tech for 10 years in this industry, but if you ever saw me navigate PowerPoint, as you saw earlier, or even Excel, you'd think I've never worked with technology. But for those, again, impacting digital skill and quality of work, when you've got a raw Excel file, and that could be results from a marketing campaign, financial numbers for the quarter, you now don't have to worry about these really advanced formulas or your best workings with Excel or needing someone else to use it. As long as you can put it in a table format, save it to the cloud, so it's on 365, you can now prompt it to see things like averages. You can maybe even change the raw data so you can see it in something that's a bit more consumable. bar charts or pie charts. You can look to expand it, where you can take some of the information and ask even for a small narrative behind it. Why maybe there was a change between November and December's numbers. So yeah, apologies, I haven't got anything prepped for it, but more than happy to follow up with that person.
Yeah, we'll get something on our on our YouTube channel to do a short demo of that. But I think that's also one of the areas where the capability of Copilot in Microsoft 365 has improved quite a bit recently.
Yes.
So I know there's some new features in there, so we'll get a demo out of that. Are there any more questions? I think we've gone through all the ones that came through the chat now. So I don't see any more. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm just going to switch back to my slides. So right, just to follow up then. There will be a recording of this webinar. If you want to share it with your colleagues, it will go on our YouTube channel in the next few days. There's also, Microsoft have created an online assessment to see if you are ready for Copilot. This will check for things like security. I mean, it's a questionnaire. It won't actually go in and check your particular Microsoft 365 setup. So you can do that following the link on here. These slides will go around, by the way, to everyone afterwards. So you don't need to start taking photos now. It's possible that you may need some assistance on this. So if you are a ProDrive client watching this and you need some assistance going through that assessment, then we can help you out with that. So on that note, please pop any questions through to me if you have any. I'd like to thank Nathan. Thank you very much, Nathan. Really, really useful. It's great to see the demo. It's really good to talk about this tech, but it just means so much more when you can actually see it being used in person. So thanks for taking the time to do the demo for us today.
No problem.
On that note, I shall wrap things up. So thank you everyone for attending. Thanks, Nathan, for joining us. And if you have any questions, obviously do get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Take care.